words in it. And those words make up a lot of sentences. And some of those sentences are better than others. There's one that involves a bumblebeating bumblebee that I probably should have cut. But out of the many sentences that make up this book, there is one in particular that is my absolute favorite. And it's my favorite because, well, to be modest, I think it's really well written. I think it has a lot of literary merit. In fact, when I wrote this sentence, I felt like I leveled up as an author. So, do you want to hear my absolutely favorite sentence in Brissinger? Yeah? All right. Die, puny human! Because what is the point of writing epic fantasy if you can't write lines like die, puny human every once in 1,000 pages? No point. No point whatsoever. All right, inheritance. Now I'm going to read you the very first line of the very first chapter of the very last book of the inheritance cycle. The dragon Saphira roared, and the soldiers before her quailed. Thank you. Of course, every time I read that, I think the soldiers turned into quails, but that's me. You know, I think we're going to skip the Fork, the Witch, and the Worm. A lot of people did. I kid. And we're going to go to Murtagh now, and let me find the page. There we go. Decisive page flipping. This is going to be this is a proper reading now. This is a slightly longer one. So now's your chance to go to the bathroom if you want. This is going to be about a page and a half. And I picked this reading because I think it does a good job of capturing some of the feel of the book and the character. For those of you who have not read the book, there shouldn't be any major spoilers in this, aside from the fact that Murtagh and Thorn are still alive. Sorry for that. Okay, here we go. Careful to be quiet, Murtagh stood, picked up Zarok from by his blanket, and walked a ways from their camp. The frost-laden grass crunched under his boots, a crisp, dry sound. He stood in an expanse of empty sward, chest up, shoulders back, staring forward into the future. An intake of frozen air, and he swept Zarok from its crimson sheath. In dawn's gray light, the sword's blade was a sharpened shard of iridescent red, a shimmering thorn of frozen blood, eager to cut and stab and kill. The blade of a rider, forged out of bright steel by an elven smith over a century past, and imbued with spells of strength and keenness and resistance. The finest weapon a warrior could hope to wield, and yet he regarded it with as much aversion as appreciation. A rider's blade, yes, but that rider had been Morzan, his father. And Morzan had used Zarok for many a black and bloody deed, as had Murtagh after him. Not for nothing had Morzan named the blade Misery in the ancient language, and true to its name, the sword had brought pain to many throughout the land, including Murtagh himself. Sometimes he wondered if he should have ever taken Zarok from Aragog. He shook off the thought. Whether he wanted it or not, Morzan's shadow would always lie upon him, and aside from his name and the scar on his back, Zarok was all he had from his father. It was a meager and hateful inheritance, but it was his alone, and for that he clung to it. He held the sheath in his offhand as he flowed through the familiar forms. Step, cut, parry, turn, block, swing, lunge. He moved without thinking, his mind as still and empty as a windless lake on a cloudless day. Attack, defend, escape. beat and break, search the opening, make the cut, risk the stab. He used the sheath as a dagger, blocking, deflecting, wrapping the wrist, creating opportunities for a lethal blow. His skin warmed and his pulse steadied. He moved faster, pushing himself to maintain the pace of battle, every movement a whip snap of life-preserving, life-ending action. His lungs gave out before his arms. Unable to continue, he fell to the ground. He fell to his knees and braced the sheath against the ground. Zarak he placed across his thighs. As the first rays of light crept across the frozen grass, the egg-shaped ruby in Zarak's pommel refracted the beams, splitting them into glowing darts of red. Once his breath steadied, he stood, sheathed the blade, and staggered back to camp. Across the dead fire, Thorn watched. He sniffed as Murtagh came close. "You stink of fear." Murtagh grunted. "I know. I'll wash." He flinched as Thorn licked his elbow, then he forced himself to relax and patted the dragon's